President of the United States.
Tonight, the President in primetime.
That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours. To restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America.
We break down the main messages from this year's State of the Union. The race against time to rescue people from the rubble.
For this reason, we are facing the worst disaster in the region and the world.
The latest on the aftermath of this week's devastating earthquake in Turkey and Syria. And new moms turning to alcohol in droves. A look at the dangers of mommy wine culture. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. President Biden addresses a divided Congress and a divided country. Thanks for joining us in Washington, D.C. I'm Jenna Browder. The State of the Union is strong. That was the message from President Biden in his State of the Union speech. This was the first time addressing a divided Congress for him. Biden skimmed over the nation's most divisive issues to push a message of unity and a successful economy. CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Matt Galka has the night's big moments.
Well, the president's big speech, a test run for 2024, pitching a message of progress and resilience amid Republican backlash and some uncertain economic headwinds.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
The first pitch.
We've been sent here to finish the job.
Faced with record high inflation, President Biden presented a rosy economic message of a strong job market and record low unemployment.
We're the only country that has emerged from every crisis we've ever entered stronger than we got into it.
In the president's first speech to a divided Congress,
Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you.
But if there was a temporary truce among lawmakers last night, it quickly evaporated over the coming battle to lift the debt ceiling.
Let's commit here tonight to the full faith and credit of the United States of America will never, ever be questioned.
And amid the economic uncertainty, a presidential accusation.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene shouting liar in the chamber.
Well, I'm glad to see you. And I tell you, I enjoy conversion.
Leading to a live primetime negotiation.
But it's being proposed by individuals.
And a unanimous agreement over the sanctity of entitlement programs.
As we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now.
Seemingly not open to negotiation, a ban on assault weapons.
Banned assault weapons now.
And the divisive issue of abortion.
If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it.
The president's calls for immigration reform.
And let's also come together on immigration. Make it a bipartisan issue once again.
Met with Republicans calling for more. After a week in which the country watched the Chinese spy balloon drama play out, the president touted the U.S. response.
As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did.
For the ambassador of Ukraine, a standing ovation.
We're united in our support of your country. We're going to stand with you as long as it takes.
Among the guests sitting with the First Lady, Tyree Nichols' mother, who buried her son last week.
The faith of God, she said her son was, quote, a beautiful soul, and something good will come of this.
Days after the release of police surveillance videos showing Nichols' brutal beating at the hands of police officers, the president called for police reform.
Let's commit ourselves to make the words of Tyler's mom true. Something good must come from this.
The State of the Union address met with a Republican rebuttal from the governor of Arkansas.
It's time for a new generation of Republican leadership.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders slamming President Biden for being weak on China and not enforcing immigration laws amid a humanitarian crisis at the border.
The dividing line in America is no longer between right or left. The choice is between normal or crazy.
The president did focus on unity in some key areas, but Republicans wanted more. They wanted more on the border, they wanted more on national security, and more on a plan to try and fix the economy. The next big fight, the debt ceiling, with the U.S. Treasury Department saying the United States could default on its debts as soon as this summer. At the Capitol, Matt Galka, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Matt. And for more, we're joined by CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. David, let's start with your overall thoughts. How did the president do?
Well, I thought he came out of the gate with a lot of energy. It's probably, and I can't believe I'm using this word, oratory and Biden in the same sentence. From an oratory standpoint, I actually thought he was pretty good overall, especially, like I said, from an energy perspective. And he hit the economic populism throughout the speech, but definitely in that first third, maybe 30 to 40% of the speech. And I thought those were his strongest moments. Now, of course, you're asking me for my analysis. And of course, we know, Jenna, that my analysis doesn't mean a hill of beans, whether it be in politics or here at home, if you will. Just kidding. I'm doing well with my family. Thank you. But the point is simply is that
we want to know, David.
Yeah, that's right. But it does matter, the analysis of how people in the Rust Belt and the Heartland are going to take this and see what they're going to do with it. Because Biden made it sound like an economic populism message. But look, the issue is how much of that was really truthful and how much wasn't. And that's something they're going to have to dissect for themselves.
Yeah, and you know, with what he was saying, is that what people are feeling at home? They'll have to figure, you know, that's for everybody to decide. David, there were definitely some fiery moments, including times when House Speaker Kevin McCarthy had to shush members of his own party who were yelling at the president. Did those outbursts put Republicans in a bit of a bad light?
Well, I think that's what Democrats are going to say. I mean, I think there's two levels of the outburst. One is, you know, an outburst over an out-and-out lie, which had to do with Medicare and Social Security. What he said was incorrect. It was factually incorrect. Kevin McCarthy, just to clear this up, Kevin McCarthy 24 hours ago said that Medicare and Social Security cuts were off the table when it comes to the debt ceiling fight, and yet Biden said they were on the table. So that was just not true. So they were frustrated, and rightly so. Then there were some other kind of pile-on moments where one congressman, when Biden was talking about fentanyl at the border as it relates to immigration, said it's your fault. In other words, those deaths about regarding fentanyl are your fault. And that was, even McCarthy gave the congressman a look as to, hey, tone it down. So, but look, this is what the GOP is today. It's more of a populist party because of President Trump. And with that comes the vitriol, the vociferous nature. And that's something that voters are going to have to weigh in the 2024 election.
Yeah. David, we kept hearing the president say, finish the job last night. Do you think he set the stage for a possible 2024 announcement?
I always thought that was kind of curious. He said it, what was it, over 70 times, Jen? I finished the job. And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, if you're a skeptic, you're thinking, oh, does that mean you didn't finish the job? But I think what he was trying to say, in essence, is like, look, let's work together and finish the job. And also, hey, it's been 2 years into my administration. Give me another year or two to see how the infrastructure, the law works. So I think it's interesting. I will say this. I do think his 2024 presidential theme came to fruition last night. We saw the beginning of it when he talked about the blue collar blueprint for America. And that's what he's going to talk about a lot to try to get some of those Rust Belt and Midwest voters back in the Democrat saddle.
Yeah. Sarah Sanders, she gave the Republican response, mostly known for being former President Trump's press secretary. She did introduce, in your view, David, did she introduce herself to the country as a politician in her own right? A lot of people were singing her praises today.
Yeah, I thought she did a really good job. But, you know, honestly, and she'd be the first one to say this, it's not about Sarah Huckabee Sanders. It was what she said and the tone that she set. And I think for the Republicans, she set a very good tone. And, Jenna, I think the line of the night from Sarah Huckabee Sanders was, this is normal versus crazy. You know, this is not normal. It's crazy, is what she said. And she said this is not a battle between right and left. It's a battle between normal and crazy. And I think that is indeed the GOP mantra going forward, to say Biden and the left are out of control on the culture and their policies aren't going to work for the middle class either. And therefore, it's crazy town. That's what they're going to talk about. All
right, David Brody, we will leave it there. Thank you so much, David. Have a great night.
You bet. You too, Jenna. Thanks.
Well, did Twitter censor conservative voices discussing the Hunter Biden laptop story on their platform? According to GOP House members, yes. And today, lawmakers on the House Oversight Committee demanded answers from employees.
It appears to me that you failed at your jobs. You were entrusted with the highest level of power at Twitter, but when you were faced with the New York Post story, instead of allowing people to judge the information for themselves, you rushed to find a reason why the American people shouldn't see it. In a matter of hours, you were deciding on the truth of a story that spans years and dozens of complex international transactions. You did this because you were terrified of Joe Biden not winning the election in 2020. That's what it appeared.
Democratic members of the committee claimed Republicans were spewing misinformation to favor President Trump.
Republicans are on a taxpayer-funded expedition to attack their political rivals, and they're feeding the flames of conspiracy in the process. With the release of the so-called Twitter files, Donald Trump has seized the moment to further his own conspiracies about the 2020 election.
Jake Denton is a research associate in the Tech Policy Center at the Heritage Foundation, and he joins us now to discuss. Hi, Jake. Great to have you with us this evening. So what were your big takeaways from today's hearing?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway is that we basically just rehashed what we already know. We went through essentially a debrief of the Twitter files, and we essentially relitigated the Hunter Biden laptop storyline, whether or not it was censored. But we never really got into the granular details of the censorship apparatus. We didn't get really into the weeds about, who's calling the shots in terms of, the censorship there at Twitter and the relationship with our own government. The closest we got was a question from Congressman Gosar that tried to dive into the disappearing messages aspect. In the Twitter files, they revealed that Signal, a disappearing messaging app that basically makes communication subpoena-proof, was used to communicate in terms of content moderation policies, and we just never really got into it. And so at the end of the day, this was a good opportunity to bring this to the forefront of our attention again, but we just really didn't get anything productive from this.
Yeah, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez said Republicans are weaponizing the Oversight Committee. Today, she also called the hearing a waste of time and public resources. Jake, your reaction to that?
I wouldn't say that it was a waste of time, and that, it's certainly bringing the issue to the forefront of the public's mind. And, this will produce all sorts of, good news bits that will, make people understand the extent to which censorship was occurring on the platform. But at the end of the day, we need to get into the technical aspects of what occurred here to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And so it's not a waste of time, and it's not a waste of resources. We just need to retailor these questions for, the next hearing to ensure that we actually get answers so we can move forward and prevent, the American people's freedom of speech from being infringed upon.
Yeah, what questions would you like answered from some of these top brass at Twitter?
Well, I really want to understand in greater detail, greater than what we got from the Twitter files, the relationship between Twitter employees and the federal government, specifically the agency to, Twitter relationships, that whether that be the FBI, whether that be the Department of State, right? We had the Election Integrity Partnership kind of burst onto the scene here in around September, October as a known entity that was being funded by the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State for the purpose of content moderation. That's an outsourcing of, essentially policing the First Amendment of the American people. And we didn't touch on it once in this entire hearing. And that's just a major missed opportunity. And so as we look forward to kind of, the future oversight hearing schedule, we need to get into the weeds on the relationships, how they were established, who were the people that were calling the shots and who were the victims. We saw the Excel spreadsheets on the Twitter files of, just ordinary Americans who were deplatformed by request of the FBI. That needs to be answered for.
Jake, you talk about getting into the weeds, and these lawmakers have hearing after hearing, day after day. Do you think they will get into the weeds on this topic, or will this kind of be passed over, when the next thing comes along?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the lawmakers here have to choose what they want these committee hearings to be, whether they be campaign exercises where they get up and message firmly on big tech and, kind of give a stump speech, or if they want to actually produce results for the American people. And so if they want to produce those results, they need to get the technical questions, the questions of execution and the processes that were used to kind of develop the censorship umbrella. So it's really up to the lawmakers. All the resources are available for them to have a pool of questions that will bring the truth forward. And so they ultimately just have to choose here.
All right, Jake Denton of the Heritage Foundation, great to get your insights tonight. Thank you so much, Jake.
Thanks for having me.
And coming up, earthquake aftermath. The latest as rescuers race against the clock to find survivors. Turning Turning overseas tonight, 2 days after earthquakes devastated parts of Turkey and Syria, only a couple handfuls of people were rescued today. More than 12,000 have been killed. That number is still expected to rise as search teams continue to comb through the rubble, hoping to find survivors. Meanwhile, nonprofit and humanitarian organizations are pouring into the area to provide help, including CBN's Operation Blessing, currently on the ground in Turkey.
An Operation Blessing assessment team is here on the ground to see how we can reach the people that is in need right now. Keep us in prayer, keep Syria and Turkey in your prayers. We're going to be here for the next couple days. You will know better the situation and how we can support those families that lost everything.
And Turkey's president has admitted problems with the government's initial response to the quake, but is promising disaster operations are now running smoothly. And that though many have lost their homes, no one will be left homeless. Being a mom isn't easy. How alcohol companies are taking advantage and targeting women. Next on Faith Nation. Mommy wine culture is the catchphrase of a marketing campaign targeting mothers of young children. It aims to convince them they need alcohol to cope with the pressures of raising children. And social media memes make it seem like it's harmless fun. CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson shows us why it's deadly serious.
Wine gets better with age. I get better with wine. Okay, guilty. You girls know that's true. We do.
The troubling messages often try to be humorous and appear on a number of products, from baby clothes with mommy drinks because I cry, to wine glasses with mommy's sippy cup, T-shirts reading coffee, hockey mom, wine repeat, and even memes like the most expensive part of having kids is all the wine you have to drink.
I think this messaging that is everywhere, it normalizes this behavior of drinking to survive parenthood. And it normalizes this idea that like drinking a lot is no big deal.
As it turns out, the messaging sadly reflects reality. New moms turning to alcohol, like Kelly Manley, who did it to fit in with her peers at kids' birthday parties, soccer practice, you name it.
People would show up to the park with little, discreet glasses of wine to have at, 4 p.m. on a play date at the park. You go to the zoo and for a small upcharge, you can buy a flight of beer, not just a beer, but a flight of beer to enjoy while you're pushing your kid around the zoo.
And like other events these days, it's going digital, like the Moms Who Need Wine Facebook group.
Alcohol has been sold as the ultimate way to decompress, to cope, and to bond with other women. And it's very dangerous.
The alcohol industry has certainly played a part. Back in the 90s, it ushered in the so-called pinking of the market, making and advertising booze aimed specifically at women.
Drink these sweetened, pre-sweetened, gorgeous, attractive pink drinks that will end you into drinking spirits, drinking pretty wine, drinking wine with names like, French Rabbit.
And it worked. While historically men consumed the most alcohol, women are now catching up. In the last 15 years, the greatest increase in consumption has been among women in their 30s and 40s. However, because of biological differences, women absorb more alcohol and take longer to metabolize it than men. That means the same amount of alcohol typically damages the female body more than the man's. After drinking the same amount of alcohol, women tend to have higher blood alcohol levels than men, and the effects usually occur more quickly and last longer in women. Alcohol also makes women more susceptible than men to liver disease, heart disease, cancer, and cognitive decline. U.S. health officials recommend women should drink no more than 5 ounces of wine a day. Canadian health officials go further, saying only 2 5-ounce glasses per week.
This is a women's health issue. It's in fact a big public health issue.
And it's not just physical. Alcohol affects mental health too, which is why Kelly gave it up.
It just exacerbated my feelings of anxiety and depression. And I felt like I was betraying myself every time I drank.
She's not alone. More moms are rejecting mommy wine culture and turning to groups like Sober Mom Squad.
Having a safe space where you can talk to other moms about, the questions you're having about alcohol or how difficult it is to navigate in this culture where everyone tells you you need to drink to be a parent, and not have to justify that you should just be grateful to have kids.
Many moms are also saying no because they're concerned about the culture's impact on their child's self-esteem.
Most problematic part of it is, what is it saying to your kids? Again, if it's, tongue-in-cheek jokes like between friends, that's one thing. But when you're wearing the T-shirt that said "Mommy needs wine," saying that you have to, I have to drink because you're difficult. I think that leads into something that's even more damaging.
So while pop culture and big alcohol try to convince new moms life is better with booze, a growing number are rejecting that message for the sake of their own health as well as their families. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Lori. Well, the greatest of all time. The latest shattered record that has people saying the debate is settled, and LeBron James is the basketball GOAT. And finally tonight, basketball's king has a new jewel in his crown. NBA superstar LeBron James, already on record that he believes himself to be the greatest basketball player of all time, now capping off that argument with 38,390 career points. The Los Angeles Lakers forward hit 38 points last night to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the new all-time scoring record holder. The NBA legend was there last night to hand over the ball, passing LeBron James the torch as the NBA's new standard bearer. And a big night for basketball fans and LeBron James fans. Congratulations to him, and thank you for joining us tonight. Have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow.